Welcome in, Dween Nation. This is your host, Justin Pies, alongside Genoa Agudelo. And Genoa, just tell me how you doing today.
Yo, Dewey Nation, I'm doing great. It's Friday. It's none better. We're less than a month away, Justin, from the draft, right? Couple
That's right.
weeks.
Oh, yeah.
And we're here. This is getting closer. April, May, later down the line. I'm feeling a little bit of fantasy season. Maybe, okay, I'm getting too ahead of myself. Some mock drafts, but hey, Justin, I'm doing great today, and I'm so excited to get down into this week's episode. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, no, I'm itching for it. I mean, guys, we just had our Stephon Diggs coverage,
Mhm.
and then, tomorrow's WrestleMania. So I'm in the mind of, WWE, but, we got to talk about fantasy football because
The
that
final
is
boss. The
hot,
final boss.
the final boss and the tribal chief. No, anyway, back on topic. I cannot wait to talk about today. Today's a very special episode. Obviously, so we're talking about bold predictions and early Super Bowl predictions because why the hell not? And
Yep.
the draft's a few weeks away, so we're gonna get this in, get some big predictions in, then start some major draft coverage. Talk about some guys coming in that'll be helpful for you guys. Day 1, day 2, and day 3, all very important, and we can't wait to do that. But today is a more fun episode. We got some major bold predictions, fantasy wise, NFL wise, and let's dive into it. So Genoa and we have 3 bold predictions plus an honorable mention because we just love talking about bold predictions, and then we'll finish with some Super Bowl predictions. And so I want to start with you, Genoa. What is your honorable mention bold prediction? We're going to get spicier as we go on.
Let's do it. Okay, honorable mention. So, if you have not kept up with the Los Angeles Chargers, Justin, their offense is looking pretty bad with the departures of guys like Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Austin Eckler. So now this leaves room for a lot of improvement, Justin. And Jim Harbaugh is going to have a pretty, interesting decision with that sixth pick overall here in the draft, Justin. So here's what I'm thinking. All right, hear me out. If Marvin obviously goes fourth to Arizona, Justin, let's go with Malik Nabers. Now, if he goes 5, I believe it was the Giants that's at 5, Justin?
Giants are at 6. Chargers
6.
at 5.
The Chargers at 5. Okay, so here we go. If, the Cardinals go Marvin, you obviously go with Nabers. Instantly. And so, if that were to happen, if Malik Nabers out of LSU becomes a Los Angeles Charger, Justin, like his LSU brothers, like Jamar Chase and like Justin Jefferson, even Odell, he will be one of the number 1 receivers going into next year's draft, Justin, as Malik Nabers, a Charger, will be the number 1 pick overall in 2025 NFL fantasy drafts, Justin, because
Wow.
he is getting catches from Justin Herbert, and they will make sweet, sweet magic in SoFi Stadium for many, many years to come. Herbert gets his new target, and we all get a new number 1 wide receiver in next year's drafts. Not this year, but next year. That's my spicy take.
That is spicy. I love it. We're hot right off the bat. I love it. Let me dive into it with you because that is very cool. Obviously, you got Justin Herbert, top 5, top 7 quarterback in the league. Jim Harbaugh, he's a very great head coach, and they got nobody to toss the rock to. And we're talking about a guy like Malik Nabers, probably. If it's one of the other 2 top guys too, I assume that they'll be very good too. And all the scouts in the league are talking about if Marvin Harrison wasn't in this draft, Nabers or Odunze, like in any other year, they would be the number 1 wide receiver. So they're great just because they might not be ranked as the highest wide receiver. They are special, very special.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we know the LSU background, with Jefferson, Odell, Jamar. It's a full list of stars, and Nabers is one of those guys. And pairing him up with Justin Herbert, that is a phenomenal option. Obviously, first overall in the next year's draft is hot. That is hot. I'm hot in my seat right now. I got some seat warmers on. So very cool. All right, that's spicy, and I love it. We'll jump to mine. My honorable mention is talking about the newest Baltimore Raven, Derrick Henry. Okay, so Derrick Henry, obviously, he's been in Tennessee all these years. He moves to Baltimore. He's got a great quarterback. He's got a great team around him. The O-line is way better than is in Tennessee. And I think if Gus Edwards is going to score 13 touchdowns last year as a Baltimore Raven, Derrick Henry is going to put up 25 touchdowns on the ground for the Baltimore Ravens, becoming not breaking LT's record, but he will be right up there. 25 touchdowns. Obviously, will be a top 5, top 3 running back on the season. I think he's just going to be a goal line vulture. He's still a great back, and we've seen running backs have success in this offense when they're healthy. And Derrick Henry has always been, for the most part, a clean bill of health type of player. We saw a major touchdown season, as I mentioned. Gus Edwards last year, Mark Ingram a handful of years ago. Derrick Henry is way on a different level than those guys. And I think with the pairing with Lamar, with a better O-line, with a better coach, with just about better everything set up for Derrick Henry, he's getting 25 of those beautiful 6-pointers. And will be a major winning pickup if you get him in your fantasy drafts.
Yeah.
Jano, what do you think? Am I spicy enough? How do you like it?
That's very spicy, Justin. But here's the thing. You have a great point because Baltimore, historically, that I've said this, they've always had that running game motto. Running game first. We pass when we think we need to. And even if we think we need to pass, Justin, we're still going to run it up the middle with Ray Rice or, Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis or Bernard. I mean, they've had running backs. Alex Collins, RIP to my God. He was a good running back for many years. And they had Justin Forsett and Jpay Dobbins. I mean, I'll go all night with the running backs there in Baltimore. And, they had Mark Ingram not that long ago. It was a pretty good Heisman backfield, but it was a little bit outdated because Mark Ingram was like the back half of his career after he left the Saints. And now, Justin, they have the running back to fit them. And it's a spicy take just because of 25 touchdowns is crazy, but it's not like impossible, Justin. That offensive line is going to get better. Baltimore is always going to improve the run game year in and year out. They have a dual threat running back who is so happened you can make the argument one of the best rushing quarterbacks in football history, Justin. And it's not spicy at all. And I do like Derrick Henry to get about 15 to 17 rushing touchdowns. 25 is extreme, but hey, I would not doubt it with the talent of Derrick Henry and in his new team.
Good, because I like it, and I'm on fire. So I'm gonna go next because I'm selfish and I want my other one. All right, my number 3 one. All right, I'm gonna talk about another running back because I just love running backs and they're very important. A guy that disappointed highly last year, coming off of an ACL injury. And I remember 2 years ago I was on his bandwagon. Then he tore his ACL. He plays for the Denver Broncos. I have Javonte Williams as an RB1 in 2024. Under Sean Payton's offense. Obviously, it looks like they'll probably have a rookie guy at quarterback. Why not rely on a very reliable running back? A lot of people are going to look at last year and think that's who he is, but 2 years removed from an ACL injury, especially one that was that major that he had a couple years ago, is going to be essential for him to get back on the horse. He's going to be phenomenal. Their O-line is solid, nothing too pretty, but I love Sean Payton. He always pumps out really good running backs. And they haven't added to that room yet. I think they have Jaleel McLaughlin. I'm not even sure if the Samaje Perine is still on that roster. So, Javonte Williams, I'm a big believer in. And I've had that belief in him for a while. He's, injuries have subsided that. But I think once he's back and fully good, obviously he wasn't fully good last year. I think it'll be big for him. He's an RB1 who's like top 10. He'll be a top 10 running back. For those who don't know RB1. But yes. All right. Tell me what you think. Javonte, you feel like he's under the radar right now in the NFL. Nobody's talking about him.
Yeah, Justin, and here's why. The Broncos absolutely stink, Justin. I mean, they get rid of all their, even Jared Jeudy was a pretty massive disappointment in Denver, Justin. They just got rid of everybody. They kicked Russell out the back door, made him the scapegoat. The Broncos have given me a bad taste in my mouth, Justin, for the past couple of years, fantasy-wise. Not fantasy, just on the field. I mean, they just have been no fun to watch. I mean, Justin, I just miss the old days of Peyton Manning and RP to Demaryius Thomas, and Julius Thomas, who was good, and Eric Decker and Wes Welker. I mean, this franchise is toast. But I do think Javonte Williams is that little light of theirs, there's a little spark that they still have hope. If they can get a quarterback, maybe like a trade up for Drake May, and then just add some offensive talent, maybe. He could. I just feel like Javonte Williams is just now the only guy in Denver to get any looks. Now I guess all defenses will adjust and see like, oh, they're going to run the ball. It all depends what they do in the draft. They could trade up, but now it's just that's a really, really spicy take, Justin, because I mean, Javonte Williams, the player himself, is really good. Just like everything around him is looking bad, even though they do have Sean Payton. I do think the Broncos and the Giants are going to be kind of those teams next year that kind of looking for the first, second pick. Um, I don't agree necessarily, Justin, but I do like Javonte Williams a year away, a root removed away from his his injury. Maybe he could have a mid, maybe the high to RB2 season. I'll say.
All right. Well, that's why it's
Yeah,
spicy.
yeah,
And I've
yeah.
cooled off. I've cooled off a little bit. And we'll defer to you. What's your next bold prediction?
Okay, Justin. Now you know how much I love my Bengals. You know how much I love Jamar Chase. He's been my favorite player in this league. So, I mean, if you didn't know that, he's been one of my favorite players. I don't draft him because I don't want to jinx him, but he is my favorite player. I have him. The only time I have ever had Jamar Chase is in a dynasty league that we have.
That's
Um,
right.
but other than that, with the Bengals, Justin, I'm a little bit worried. Here's why. So the last couple of years, Joe Burrow, he's coming into the season pretty banged up. Last year, he had a slow start, and then the Bengals won like 4 or 5 in a row. And then after that, Joe Burrow hurts himself against against the Ravens that Thursday night game, and then he's done for the year. And it's been kind of a thing. When Joe Burrow's played, he's led his team to the AFC Championship. But his rookie year, he had a nasty ACL injury. I think like a few years before that, when he was with Ohio State, before he got to LSU, I think he had another injury. And it just worries me a little bit, Justin, that Joe Burrow now might be that injury-prone quarterback. At times, Joe Burrow can seem limited as a player, talent-wise. He can move off his feet, but sometimes he kind of just relies too much on his passing game. It's tough for him to get out of the pocket and make some, plays just because of his injury. And I guess he's just a little hesitant to go out there. And I feel like it's going to linger a little bit to this year. I do think the Bengals have a solid year, but also there's this cloud looming over Cincinnati right now, and it's what's going on with T. Higgins. I feel like I've always just felt like when they made the Super Bowl a few years ago with those two receivers, Jamar and T, and even with Tyler Boyd, I feel like that's kind of the core that needs to be together just for a couple more years. And they don't have no interest in re-signing Tyler Boyd, Justin, and then now they franchise tag T. Higgins, knowing that's going to upset him, and now T. Higgins wants out, Justin, and for a fantasy perspective, that sucks because if we want Jamar Chase in the first couple picks of the first round, we're going to need T. Higgins to be his Batman to Robin, because that's what's going to open up Chase in the passing game. But now that T. Higgins potentially wants out, there's not going to be Tyler Boyd. Joe Mixon's already gone. I'm just a little skeptical to see how they're going to develop new talent, because you do have a once in a lifetime generational player in Jamar Chase. How are they going to elevate this offense? It worries me a little bit, Justin. I do see an 8-9 season. I do see Joe Burrow also having a pretty down season in fantasy as well, Justin. I'm just a little bit worried. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Wow. So I mean, I'm on another boat. I'm on the one going in the exact opposite direction. I have a
Oh,
lot of hopes for the Bengals, just to the fact that I think Baltimore as a team will be a little bit worse than they were last year. They were
ooh.
dominating just about everywhere.
Mhm.
The Bengals still had a chance to make the playoffs with Burrow being injured for a lot of the year,
Yeah.
T. Higgins being injured in and out. This team was just not functioning properly last year. Obviously, Burrow was playing through an injury. Then he got injured again.
Mm.
So I'm on a different boat. I like your take. You make really good points. They're in a hard division and a hard conference. I mean, teams like the
Yeah.
Texans and the Ravens and the Chiefs and
Mm.
even in the Browns are still very good teams that will make it difficult for the Bengals. But I think Burrow is going to definitely have to show up
Mm.
for this team to go anywhere, and I think he has it. We've seen it happen.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, okay, all right. They're on a different side of it. Um, that they're not going to do good. Wow, 8 wins. I can't wait for
Yeah,
the
eight.
schedule. I can't wait for the schedule release where we'll actually dive into
Oh.
each game. But yeah, okay, all right. No, it's spicy. I like it. The Bengals, our team looked as one of the high flying teams, but
Mm.
we're looking at them to be a little bit grounded this year. Okay, all
Mhm.
right. Well, you give me your next one, and then we'll jump back to me.
Okay. Okay. So the NFC North now is very interesting, Justin. We have the Lions, who just made the NFC Championship. We have the Green Bay Packers who made a late season run, and now we know, Justin, that Jordan Love is the franchise guy for Green Bay in Lambeau Field. And then you look at the Bears, Justin. They made some splashes this offseason, right? We're not really, 100% sure on the coaching staff, but we're going to let the talent override that, right? And not only that, Justin, they have one of the better generational talents with the first pick overall, Caleb Williams. And I do think Caleb Williams has potential to be the Rookie of the Year, no doubt. He's the favorite to win the Rookie of the Year in Chicago. I know the draft hasn't been yet, but we're assuming he goes to Chicago. So now you have the Vikings, the Packers, and the Bears. The Vikings now, Justin, get the short end of the stick. I'm not really high on J.J. McCarthy. I know you are, Justin. If they do go up getting J.J. McCarthy, I just don't think it fits the receiver skill set. I love Jordan Addison. We all love Justin Jefferson. And I think if Osborne's still there, that's a pretty good sneaky receiving core. I know Hawkinson is hurt, right, Justin? He tore his ACL, I think, towards the end of the year. So he's probably going to be a little, probably coming back a little mid-season. But that's a great receiving core, Justin. But when you add J.J. McCarthy, I'm just not really sure what we're going to get out of him. I know he just won a natty, but I do think Michigan overall was just a great coach team. They were very motivated with what was going on in the middle of the year, and they led them to winning that championship under Jim Harbaugh, who's now with the Chargers. But I just don't know. I think the Vikings are going to regret now leaving Kirk. That's my hot take. I think they're going to kind of miss, Kirk. I do think Kirk's going to go to Atlanta. I know he's going to be healthy after his injury. And I do think he's going to have that Falcons team playing pretty good. If not the beginning of the season, definitely mid to late season. I do think, Justin, the Vikings are going to be that X. They're going to have that portrait of their ex, the napkin in their hand, and they're going to miss Kirk Cousins. They're going to be like, man, we should have offered him more money. We should have done everything to stay. Now he's leading the Falcons to a division title, and they're going to miss Kirk really bad, Justin. I do think eventually Justin Jefferson might want out. I don't think he's all in on the quarterback situation. That's just my feeling. Justin Jefferson's a great guy with a great attitude, so obviously he's not saying anything now, but I do think eternally, I do think Justin Jefferson eventually might want out and maybe rejoin Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase in Cincinnati. Maybe they take off, Justin. That would be beautiful to watch. I would love that. But hey, I do think the Vikings are going to have a struggling season. They're going to look at the three teams in that division: Bears, Packers, Lions. They're going to have better seasons, better fantasy seasons, and I do think they're going to miss Kirk drastically.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, looking at the entire division now, it is definitely more competitive than it's probably been in the last decade. The Bears finally have something to offer. I agree with phenomenal moves from them. The Packers look good with their new franchise quarterback, and of course the Lions put it together and almost made the Super Bowl this past season. Looking at the Vikings, sorry, say it.
Oh no, I was gonna say something real quick. If the Vikings go other like Jaden Daniels, maybe Penix, maybe my mind changes different. Maybe a Drake May. My mind changes differently on the Vikings as a better team, but with JJ McCarthy on their sides, not too confident. But go ahead, Justin. Go ahead, buddy.
Okay, so it's the JJ McCarthy. Okay, well, I will say there is rumors circling around that if McCarthy jumps up to 2, which would be a mistake. I do like McCarthy. I think he has some good raw talent, but I don't think he's a day one starter type of player. Yeah. And if he goes top 4, obviously he'll be, the first day. Unless the Vikings think they can start with Darnold, who's still a young guy. He's still like 25 years old or something like that. Yeah. I feel like he's been in the league forever. But they actually don't. KJ Osborne is a New England Patriot now. He left in free agency, and then they're definitely on the their stock is down with Hawkinson probably coming back late. Maybe a frustrated Justin Jefferson. I do like the signing of Aaron Jones, and I think they made some good moves on the defense. So I think they'll be around that Bears territory, maybe like 6 wins. Still a disappointing season because they're a really well-coached team. I like Kevin O'Connell a lot. But yeah, the NFC North might prove to have its new worst team with the Vikings. But out of McCarthy and those top 3 guys, I like those top 3 guys. If they're able to do that and get one of those guys, I'd be a lot happier for their outlook. But as of now, they're kind of slotted at getting McCarthy, maybe Penix. It's not going to be as strong. Okay. Yeah. All right. Jumping back to me. I want to give some shine to the tight ends. I feel like tight ends just don't get the, bold predictions. We look at some big names and we're like, yeah,
Yeah.
we don't talk about some of these tight ends, especially. I mean, you would think Kelsey, but no. I'm going to bring in the Dallas Cowboys tight end Jake Ferguson, who
Okay.
came on, and we thought, with the loss of Schultz, like who would be the guy to step up? They drafted Luke Schoonmaker in the second round last year. He was injured and not really impactful. And Jake Ferguson, though, stepped up and was very good. Top 10 tight end. And I think that this year they cut Michael Gallup. It's the last season of McCarthy if he doesn't win the Super Bowl or make it to the Super Bowl
Yeah.
or any of that. So they're going to throw all in nonstop. Cooks is a aging vet, and I think Ferguson is going to step up, and he's going to be a top 3 tight end, which means I think he's going to outscore guys like Mark Andrews, probably Sam Laporta. Like I think that Ferguson is in line for a very big year. The Cowboys offense took flight and was very they went scorched earth and was touchdowns. If they think that they can do another year of just CeeDee Lamb, it's going to cause injuries, it's going to cause wear and tear and burnout. So I think
Yeah.
that getting Jake Ferguson, who I think, to be honest with you, is a better tight end than Dalton Schultz.
Yeah.
I think Ferguson is in line to be phenomenal, and he's not going to go in the top 4 to 5 tight ends. So I think right now I'd look at him as the best value tight end in your fantasy drafts coming into this year. But yeah, what do you think with Jake Ferguson?
Justin, there's always something about tight ends wearing number 87. And hey, Ferguson is one of them, man. He is going to be, he's very slept on because you look at the rankings. You obviously have Travis Kelsey, Mark Andrews, Laporta, maybe Kittle. I do think Ferguson has a better
I
season
mean,
than Kittle.
Njoku had a
Yeah,
really good year last
yeah,
year.
yeah.
So
I do like Jake Ferguson, Justin. That Cowboys offense, I've always mentioned, they're very high flying, high scoring. The Cowboys are rather down in big games, and Dak needs to play kind of catch up. And it's good for fantasy members because, Dak will start off the second half with 162 passing yards and a pick, maybe a touchdown, but he'll have a pick. And once it's like, not looking good for Dak. But then, Justin, Dak will end up with 432, 3 touchdowns, and 2 of those goes to Ferguson in crunch and garbage time, as it did in the wildcard round against Green Bay. So,
yeah.
the Cowboys offense is always going to be playing from behind, or they're playing that really, marquee matchup of Sunday night football or Sunday, afternoon at 3:25. And, Ferguson can be that guy, to balance out CeeDee Lamb that defenses are going to, focus a lot on this upcoming year. So, yeah, I like Ferguson to be a top 5 tight end for sure, fantasy-wise. I do think he has a better season than, of course, Kittle, maybe a Mark Andrews. I'm not sure yet about Laporta, Justin, but it could be a possibility.
I will say, though, with Laporta, the thing that maybe drives a little bit of concern is that he just was so dominant in the touchdowns. He was scoring touchdown after
Yeah.
touchdown after touchdown. As I know, I was all in on that train.
Mm-hmm.
But Ferguson might get some of that, that pixie dust, some of that luck that
Yeah.
Laporta was getting. And another fact too, with Dan Quinn leaving that defense, with Gilmore's gone, it might be
Yeah.
in a little bit more of shootouts.
Yeah.
This team might be in more shootouts, and I think Ferguson is a nice security blanket. So I love that. We'll jump to
Yeah.
you. Give me your number 1 bold prediction.
All right, Justin, this is a 2-for-1 here. Okay. First of all, this got, edited just a little bit just because of recent news. I know everybody's probably aware of what's going on with Rashee Rice. That's an ongoing investigation. But here we go. Before that happened, Justin, I had the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes having a 2007 like Patriots season. If for those who don't know, the Patriots, they had Tom Brady, Randy Moss, a pretty stacked offense. Went 16-0, went to the Super Bowl, lost, at the end by a hair to the Giants. But hey, Tom Brady won unanimous MVP, throwing 50 touchdowns. The Patriots went undefeated. They had one of the best offenses of all time. And I think that's what's going to happen here with Kansas City, Justin. Now, we're entering the glory days of Kansas City and the Patrick Mahomes era. We are in the peak, smack middle of it. This is what we're going to look back in 10, 15 years and be like, I remember that Chiefs era when Mahomes was dominating the league. Now, with the likes of Lamar and my guy CJ Stroud and Jalen Hurts coming up the way, I do think Mahomes will have a little bit of, so here's my bold prediction. First is part 1. The Chiefs will have a dominant year, Justin. Mahomes is probably going to be 1 with the next guy I'm going to mention at MVP, and it's going to be neck and neck. These two quarterbacks, Mahomes and Jalen Hurts, will be neck and neck all year. It's going to be through the teeth, Justin, all the way to Week 17. I do think some voters are going to look at what's their playoff seeding. If the Chiefs are playing first round and the wild card and the Eagles aren't, then hey, let's give it to Hurts. But I do think the Eagles and the Chiefs are going to be scoring points week in and week out, smacking teams. I don't think they face each other at all next year, the Chiefs and the Eagles. So it's going to be pretty much they're playing whoever, and nobody gets in the way. And I do think Hurts is going to have another great season. He has Barkley in the backfield with A.J. Brown, Javonte Smith. That offense is going to get better. They had a bad year next year, and I'm a big believer in Hurts to bring that team back to the number one seed as they were 2 years ago. And Kansas City is going to be the same way. Mahomes doesn't want to have that offensive, struggles he had last year. I know they won the Super Bowl, but they struggled, Justin. And even from a fantasy perspective, there were so many more quarterbacks better than Patrick Mahomes, which is crazy to know. It's crazy to hear that. So next year, Mahomes is like, no, we're going to be on the money. Okay, if Rashee Rice is not out, we're going to add this guy through the draft, and we're going to take off. So Mahomes and Hurts are going to be the two best quarterbacks in fantasy next year in the MVP rank, and their two teams are going to lead the first seed. I'm not sure that's going to lead to Super Bowl prediction, but I'm just saying Hurts and Mahomes are going to be the two most dominant quarterbacks next year, as well as the Eagles and the Chiefs as far as power rankings.
All right. I like it.
Yeah.
Obviously, Mahomes is one of the top guys already, but I'm looking at their schedule here. All right. So, to me, their toughest games, they host the Texans. They host the Ravens. They're on the road to Cleveland, Atlanta, Buffalo, and San Francisco. They got their division on lock. I'm going to give them – obviously, they'll be favored in their home games. I think the only game they might not be favored in is that Niners game away. But I think the Niners, which we might talk about in another episode, I think we haven't got to them, but I think they might be on a little bit of a downturn.
Yeah.
And the Chiefs are still on an upturn. I
Yeah.
know Rashee Rice's issues might cause some concern. I don't think he'll miss any time. Unfortunate what he was committing with his buddies or whatever. But I think he'll be back on the field. And then they got Hollywood, and they still have a first rounder and of course, a second rounder in this deep wide receiver class. So Mahomes is set up for success. There's not too much in their way. And so I think that they're on the uptick. I can agree with Jalen Hurts. I'm not going to spoil anything later. I do like Hurts a lot. I like what they're putting out there, and I like their conference that they can hopefully fly through. So I like that. That's good.
I will also add, lastly, the Chiefs' defense was so dominant in the playoffs, Justin. You got to make the argument that they could be a top fantasy defense, Justin. If you can draft them like in the 11th round, they're going to be good next year. I know they lost Snead, but hey, they've won back-to-back Super Bowls. I know that first Super Bowl against Philly was a high-scoring game, but hey, they made stops when needed to in that AFC Championship, and they stopped Lamar the next year, and made pretty important stops in the Super Bowl this year. So you got to believe they're going to be even better next year.
Yeah, I don't know. That's all. We didn't bring up the fact that their defense was just the best in the league. It was phenomenal. They were stopping everybody, which only will add to a possible 2007 like Patriots run. Yeah. All right. I'm going to jump to my number one. And I saved it because I'm not the most confident on it, but the most passionate on it. And it's about an Indianapolis Colts quarterback, a guy who only played a handful of games. So people were like, the sample size is small. But I got enough out of that sample, and it's Anthony Richardson will be the quarterback one in fantasy at the end of 2024. That rushing upside is phenomenal. His passing game, obviously, he's not the most accurate guy, but he will put up points out the wazoo behind Shane Steichen's led offense. If you think Taylor's going to steal a lot of touchdowns from him, I don't think so. Richardson's a big boy. Okay, He's got Pittman coming back. Downs is in his second season, and I think they're going to bring in another guy because they do need some help there. But I am all behind Anthony Richardson. Rushing upside in a fantasy quarterback means absolutely everything. I'd rather rely on that, even though we think a guy like C.J. Stroud, who's a better passer, he's got better weapons. I like Anthony Richardson to just jump it because he can run like lights out. And if you think, oh no, like he was injured, like the Colts are gonna try to get him to run less, Heck no. That's what they drafted him for. He's a big guy. They might, they have a really good O-line that bounced back last year. And he's got options to toss it to, and if he can't, he's just gonna book it in there and score touchdowns.
Yeah.
What we saw in the year that Jalen Hurts almost won MVP, it was behind Shane Steichen, and Richardson's just a guy that can bully you. He's a big dude, and he scores touchdowns. We saw in a few games that he played before he was out for the year. But yeah, I'm all in Anthony Richardson, the quarterback one over everyone. Mahomes, Josh Allen, C.J. Stroud, Burrow, Herbert, Lamar, all of them. That's my take there.
Yeah, Justin, that's probably the spiciest take out of all of ours. I'm not going to lie to you, but it doesn't seem quite off because when you think about it, the Colts went 9-8, Justin, with only having AR playing 4 to 5 games. And here's the thing: he reminds me of Cam Newton, and this team overall, the Colts, they kind of remind me a little bit. I know this team didn't win the Super Bowl, but it was the Ravens a few years ago when it was Lamar's first MVP season. It was Lamar's first year as a starter. And that team was so solid. They never really had a star, receiver. They did have Mark Andrews in his first couple years as a star tight end. But now, Justin, this team has Pittman and Downs. These are two sneaky, targets for Richardson. You mentioned the rushing game. And they have that offensive line that they've been building for the past couple years. It's going to be great to see Anthony Richardson and Taylor run behind this, offense. And I do think that this defense is solid enough to put Richardson in pretty key spots. This is going to be a very, stingy defense, stingy team overall. They're going to be really gritty, rough. And I do like Richardson to be that guy that puts Cam Newton-like numbers, Lamar-like MVP Cam Newton numbers. So I definitely don't disagree with you at all. I like it, and he's going to give my Texans a run for their money, and I'm pretty scared as a Houston Texans fan, Justin.
Yeah, I mean, I got to see him in person at his last year at Florida.
Yeah.
He came and beat the Aggies in Kyle Field, and he was just doing everything. I don't know if you remember that game when they played Utah, and he had that one play. He faked the guy out, did a spin, and hit the man right on the money.
Yeah.
He has a lot of those intangibles as a very successful quarterback, and I think in his second year, it's going to be phenomenal. But yeah, that's bold predictions. We were bold. We were proud. And we predicted, and just come back to this video, and see that we were right. But yeah, okay. Yeah. We're going to do, obviously, one more of these bold predictions before the season starts, and we'll be the same for Super Bowl predictions, and that's where we're going to jump to now. Genoa, Super Bowl 59 in Caesars Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana. Who will be the two teams featured?
Justin, this will change. This prediction will change every 2 weeks until next year. So we will have 80 different predictions, okay? But for right now, this is what my heart is telling me. And book this one, Justin. In New Orleans, the last time we had a Super Bowl there, it was won by the Baltimore Ravens. So this year in New Orleans, it will be represented once again by the Baltimore Ravens, led by MVP Lamar Jackson, finally gets over that mighty Chiefs team that I mentioned just a few minutes ago. The team that almost goes 17-0, but they get upset at the end by a Justin Tucker field goal, and Lamar Jackson leads them to the Little Caesar Superdome to meet up with the Eagles, who are back, Justin. 2 years ago, they got, they were so close to the Super Bowl, but Mahomes, edged them out and took it from them in Arizona. And next year, Justin, they get embarrassed and trounced, by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And now Jalen Hurts is done, Justin. He is ready to go. He is motivated. Sirianni's ready to go. Howie Roseman lets him know, hey, this is our year. We have it's now or never. And now, Justin, Jalen Hurts leads an impeccable 12-0 touchdown to interception ratio in the playoffs next year, Justin. And Philadelphia goes all the way to the Super Bowl and wins it all, 35-28. Jalen Hurts, 4 total touchdowns in New Orleans, Justin. And Philly once again is sinking. Fly, Eagles fly, and it is party all over Philly. What's that famous street in Philly, Justin?
Fly, Eagles fly.
What's the famous street? It's going to be poles flying down in the city of brotherly love. I mean, A.J. Brown's going to have his first ring. Brandon Graham is going to be able to walk off into the sunset. Jason Kelsey's going to be cheering up. Maybe Jason Kelsey could come back and suit up, maybe, but maybe not. He'll be up in the stands. He'll be in the stands in New Orleans cheering on those Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly. They will win the Super Bowl in New Orleans. Jalen Hurts MVP, 4 total touchdowns, and the Eagles get their second Lombardi against the Ravens.
Wow, I love it. I love it. That is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we're similar in some regards. I have the Eagles making the Super Bowl after a year of collapse and calamity, and people are freaking out. They come back. They've added good pieces, and they will make the Super Bowl in New Orleans. And they will face off against a team that you, in fact, talked about today. You're not a big believer in. I have the Cincinnati Bengals coming back from the depths of disgrace and disappointment. And there's a lot of things that are just lining up perfectly. You got to look at the Super Bowl like a bunch of storylines. Obviously it was the Kelsey Bowl 2 years ago, and then it was Taylor Swift this past year. We got so many stories coming into it. Obviously Joe Burrow, a legend at LSU. We're in New Orleans for this Super Bowl. Let's look at the other side. Devonta Smith. He's from Louisiana, so we got a hometown guy. Devin White, newly signed linebacker for the Eagles. He played at LSU. I look back for the Bengals. I was looking at, hey, when's the last time they played in New Orleans? When's the last time they lost in New Orleans? They haven't lost in New Orleans in 30 years. They got such a streak rolling in the Superdome, and so they're riding hot with it. And obviously Jamar and Burrow, they played at LSU. It was awesome, right? And then let's look at the two quarterbacks. I think it's gonna look to me. I'm sorry, guys, I'm a nerd. This year is WrestleMania 39, or this next year is WrestleMania 39 for the Eagles. Jalen Hurts is Cody Rhodes. You think he's gonna win and finish his story? Because hey, you got the Roman Reigns side of it. Last time Hurts and Burrow showed up together, they played in the Peach Bowl. And Joe Burrow put up 63 points, 493 yards, 7 touchdowns on Hurts. It was a total murder fest. And we're going to have Hurts firing back with this team that, they're playing for Jason Kelce because he's retired now. He's no longer part of the team. They're going to ride on that success and make it there. And it's going to be a fight between these two teams. Another cool thing, 2 new members of each team. Saquon is a new Eagles player. He played at Penn State. His old buddy is now a Bengal, Mike Gesicki. They were both Penn State Nittany Lions together. There's a lot of stories intermingling, and that's the whole point of the Super Bowl. We get to bring things together. And also, it's very important. Obviously, this year the Bengals play the Eagles in the regular season, but that'll be the first time they face off as starters. They haven't played each other as starting quarterbacks yet. And I think it's all just going to boil down to the Bengals versus the Eagles. And I want to pick the Eagles so bad, but we want to see Bourbon Street going crazy. We want to see all the beads and everything. And it's going to be Joe Burrow's time. He's going to bring out the cigar. He's going to roll back his chance because last year it didn't look good. It didn't look pretty. He was hurt. It's been a couple years since they made it, but he wins it. He wins Super Bowl MVP. We're scared with T. Higgins. T. Higgins is going to buy in to this team, and if he doesn't, they're trading for Justin Jefferson. It's going to happen, and Cincinnati is going to be very happy to be the next Super Bowl champions in Super Bowl 59.
That is very interesting, Justin. You want to know why? Because you mentioned how the LSU Tigers won their natty in that same stadium, pouncing Clemson and Trevor Lawrence, which I believe T. Higgins was on that team, Justin, on the Clemson Tigers with Lawrence. The reigning Clemson champions going into that game that year against the undefeated LSU Tigers with Burrow's Heisman year with Jamar Chase. And that same stadium, I think they were still called Mercedes-Benz back then, but I remember Burrow and Chase and Jefferson had the game of their lives, celebrating in their home state for LSU. Very interesting. You did mention how the Bengals have been very successful in New Orleans, Justin. I do think they have a Super Bowl loss that what you're mentioning that was 30 years ago to the 49ers. I could be wrong on that.
It was like 93 or 94.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know the Bengals had lost a couple of Super Bowls to the 49ers in the 80s. One of them could have been in New Orleans. I could be wrong. But it's very interesting to mention that Burrow sparks up that SIG for LSU in New Orleans. Now he sparks up the SIG for Cincinnati's first Lombardi, Justin. I love the take. Hey, Justin, let's hope me and you, brother, are there to witness it. Let's have a Dween Sports booth on Bourbon Street near Smoothie King Arena, maybe. Have some beignets, have some king cake, have some Gumbo, Justin, Dewey Nation takes over New Orleans. What do you say, man? How about we make it happen 1 year from now, maybe, possibly there, cheering on for the Bengals or Eagles, because I love both teams. That would be a first for doing sports. That would be very interesting to me, for you, Justin. Hey, one can dream, right?
We can dream, and we will hopefully make that into a reality. It's all up to you, Dewey Nation. We're going to keep building it up, and you might see us there talking to all the greats that'll be a part of those games and just talking about the game itself. Because we're young and fresh. We're going to be at this bit for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
But man, this episode was fun. We had some Super Bowl predictions. We both had the Eagles in the Super Bowl. You have them winning. I have them losing. I got the Bengals. We got teams from the AFC win or in the AFC North that are in it as well. But wow, we left out the Texans. We left out the Chiefs. We left out the 49ers and the Lions.
Yeah.
4 teams that are going to be vying for that as well. But as you mentioned, this is our early Super Bowl predictions. We're going to do one before the season starts.
Mm-hmm.
And just throw in whenever we can, because news changes a lot, players change, everything changes. But as of today, that's where we like it a lot. And we do have the crystal ball, so we know the script. We write the script. It's our thing. So it was a great episode. I hope you guys loved it. We very much enjoyed it. Check out Stephon Diggs' coverage is another little clip I'll put on YouTube. And yeah, what a successful episode, Genoa. That was great. I feel great. How do you feel after that?
Justin, Dewey Nation, I loved it. This was so much fun. I can do this for another hour. Can we do 2025, 2026 after? Let's do a Texans prediction the year after Hurts and Stroud, repeating. But hey, Dewey Nation was so much fun. Draft season is just a couple more weeks away, and man, this is going to pop off. Justin, I'm so excited. And Dewey Nation, thanks for watching. And as always, peace.
Peace.